So let's start with the Python tutorial, which is part number 5th. That is 5th tutorial that we are going to discuss in the Python. So in this tutorial we are going to discuss about the input and output of files. So various files are used for the various purposes. So a file consists of data, information which stays in the computer storage devices till we need, unless we delete it, and it gives easy access, easy ways to manipulate this data. Now here we are going to cover all the basic input output functions available in Python. Now the first is the printing on the screen. The simplest way to produce output is using the print statement, where you can pass 0 or more expressions separated by commas. So you can write as many expressions as you want, and then it will display it on your screen. This function converts the expressions you pass into a string and writes the result to standard output, which is screen or display. Now this is the way you can write it. Like print Python is really a great language, isn't it? And you can see the output coming on your screen. This produces the following result, like it is mentioned here. Python is really great language, isn't it? Now reading keyboard again is very easy, as we have been doing in other cases. Python provides two built-in functions to read a line of text from a standard input, which is like a keyboard, which by default comes from the keyboard itself. Now these functions are raw input or input, simple input. The raw input function reads one line from a standard input and returns it as a string, removing all the trailing new lines. So like this you can write it like a string is equal to raw input and enter your input. Then print received input is like str or a string. This prompts you to enter any string, and it would display same string in the screen. When you type hello Python, it will display the same thing. So this is how you can use the input on using your keyboard. Now the input function is equivalent to raw input, except that it assumes that the input is a valid Python expression and results the evaluated result and returns the evaluated result. Now string is equal to input, enter your input, whatever you want to enter, and print received input is string. So whatever you enter, that will be captured in a temporary variable in memory, and then when you print it, it will print the same thing whatever you have entered. This would produce the following result against the entered input. Now suppose you have entered like this, enter your input like x star 5, which means that x can have any value, and the range is given in the bracket, that is 2, 10, 2, and when you execute it, you will see that it will get multiplied by those numbers which are there in the bracket, and it will give you the result. Now opening and closing files, until you have been reading and writing to the standard input and output, now we are going to see how to use actual data files. Now that is what our requirement, which you are going to use when you are writing your programs using different kinds of data sets which are stored in the files. Now Python provides basic functions and methods necessary to manipulate files by default. You can do most of the file manipulation using a file object. The open function, before you can read or write a file, you have to open it, because unless you open a file, you cannot access it. So you have to open it using Python's built-in open function. This function creates a file object which would be utilized to call other support methods associated with it. So the syntax for that is that file object is equal to open file, whatever name of the file is, then what is the access mode that you are going to use it, and then buffering if it is there. Here are some parameters details, that is file name. The file name argument is a string value that contains the name of the file that you want to access. Then access mode. The access mode determines the mode in which the file has to be opened, whether it is a read, write, or append, etc. A complete list of possible values is given below in the table. This is optional parameter, and the default file access mode is read, that is R. Now buffering is also an option available. If the buffering value is set to 0, no buffering takes place. If the buffering value is 1, then line buffering is performed when accessing a file. So whatever number that you want to give, those many number of lines can be put into buffer. So if you specify the buffering value as an integer greater than 1, then buffering action is performed with the indicated buffer size. If negative, the buffer size system default, that means it doesn't accept it. Now these are the various modes of opening the file. Like one by one, let's go each one of them. R opens the file for reading only. The file operator is, then the file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. This is the default mode. RB opens the file for reading only in binary format. The file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. This is the default mode. Now plus sign, if you use, opens the file for both reading and writing. The file pointer placed at the beginning of the file. RB plus opens the file for both reading and writing in the binary format, and the file pointer placed at the beginning of the file. Similarly, W opens the file for writing only. No reading is possible in this. It overwrites the file if there is some data already exists. If the file does not exist, then it will create a file and then write whatever content that you want to write on that. Then WB opens the file for writing only in binary format, overwrites the file of the whatever file exists, and if the file does not exist, it will create a file for that. So then it will start writing in the binary format. Then W plus opens the file for both writing and reading, overwrites the existing file if it is there. If the file does not exist, it will create one and then it will write on that, and then it is available both for reading and writing. WB plus opens a file for both writing and reading in binary format, overwrites the existing one if it is there. If the file does not exist, it will create one and then do the reading or writing whatever is required. A means that it opens a file for appending. That means there is always already existing some data, and you want to append the data on the same file. So the file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists, and that is the file in append mode. And if the file does not exist, it will create a new file and then start writing there. AB opens a file for appending in a binary format. The file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists, and that is the file is in the append mode. If the file does not exist, it creates a new one and then append it or write it on. Then A plus opens a file for both appending and reading. The file pointer is at the end of the file. The file exists, and the file opens in the append mode if the file does not exist. AB plus opens the file for both appending and reading in binary format. The file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists, and then starts appending there. If the file does not exist, it will create and then start reading and writing both. So this is how the reading and writing operations takes place in a data file. The file objects attributes. Once a file is opened and you have one file object, you can get various information related to that file. The list of the attributes that are related to that object is like file.closed, which means that it will return true if the file is closed and false otherwise. File.mode, it returns access mode with which the file was opened. File.name returns name of the file. File.soft space, that means returns false if a space exists explicitly required with print true otherwise. Now some example of that. fo is equal to open foo.txt and the mode is wb. Now when you print the name of the file, it will be fo.name. Similarly, print closed or not, fo.closed. Print opening mode, fo.mode. So this is how you can write your various modes that we have learned earlier. This produces the following results, like name of the file is foo.txt, closed or not, false, opening mode is equal to wb, soft space flag is 0. The close method of the file object flushes any unwritten information and closes the file object. after which no more writing can be done. Python automatically closes a file when the reference object of a file is reassigned to another file. It's a good practice to use the close method to close a file. Whenever your job is done, completed, you must close the file. And the syntax for that is file object dot close. So this closes the file. Then another example, open a file, fo.open foo.txt, and then within bracket you can give wb. Then print name of the file is fo.name, and then you can go for the close open file. Now fo.close is the close, for the closure you can give fo.close. This produces the following result, name of the file as foo.txt. Now reading and writing files, the files object provides a set of access methods to make our lives easier. We would see how to use read write methods to read and write files. The write method writes any string to an open file. It is important to note that Python strings can have binary data and not just text. The write method does not add a new line character unless you give it like this \n to the end of the string. Syntax of that is file object dot write within brackets string, whatever string that you want to write. Here past parameters is the content of to be written into the open file. Whatever file is open, it will write on that. And the way you give your script is like this: fo.open, foo.txt wb, fo.write. Python is a great language, /n, yeah, it's great. And then close open file and fo.close. So the above method would create foo.txt file and would write given contents in the file, and finally it would close that file. If you would open this file, you will get following content like Python is a great language. Yeah, it's great. Why the yeah it's great in the next line? Because you have given as \n. The read method reads a string from an open file. It's important to note that Python strings can have binary data apart from the text data. So for that the syntax is file object.read, and within brackets small and then square brackets count. Here past parameter is the number of bytes to be read from the opened file. This method starts reading from the beginning of the file, and if count is missing, then it tries to read as much as possible, maybe until the end of the file. So this is the syntax that you are going to use for that. Then let's take another example, which is foo.txt, which we created above. And here you can use, like for opening a file, fo.open within brackets foo.txt, and here we are going to use the r plus. That means you are reading and then we are adding also. So we can read that file and we can add also some data or a string, etc. in that. So a string is equal to fo.read within brackets 10, print read string is as a str, and then close that file. So when you close fo.close by using this particular script, this produces the following result as read string is Python file handling IO operations. So this is how you can write. This is just an example so that you can have a feel as to how the various IO operations are performed on the data file. So this completes our 5th tutorial on Python, and now we'll move on to the last tutorial. That will be the 6th tutorial. Thank you.